Hey, Thomas from Field Tennis. The forehand slice stroke is one of the most versatile strokes which you should definitely have in your arsenal. And in today's video I will show you all the situations you can use it in, what is technically correct execution of the forehand slice, and the drills to use to master it. Now look how versatile the forehand slice is. I can play it in defense. I buy myself time, push Kaya back, and I'm getting a neutral ball. So it's a very good shot to buy yourself time, give yourself time to recover and start the rally in neutral. You can use the forehand slice to get out of trouble on these nasty low short balls that would be very difficult to dig out if you have a bit flatter forehand technique, or perhaps you have a very western grip and low balls are very difficult. That's when forehand slice can come to the rescue, put you back in a neutral situation, and then you continue the rally from there. The next situation you can use forehand slices in is the approach shot. It helps you keep the ball low, forces your opponent to play the ball up, and makes the volley much easier. Easy point. The next situation you can use forehand slices is to disrupt your opponent's rhythm. When you're in a baseline rally, they get used to your rhythm, they get used to your speed and spin, and if you suddenly throw in a forehand slice, they will have to change their stroke, adapt their stroke, and many times they're not going to be so good at it. They're going to hit the ball long or wide, or give you a short ball that you can attack. Yeah, that might happen. As you see, I played a nasty low forehand slice. Kaya had to adjust to the ball. She made a little error and the ball was long, and sometimes that's all you have to do just to change the rhythm and disrupt their gameplay. Here's another situation you can use forehand slice for. You can try and bring your opponent in, especially if they're not so skilled at the net. Bring them in because they are not going to be able to attack your short ball well. You're keeping the ball low. They have no choice but to come in, and then you can try and pass them or lob them. The next situation you can use forehand slice in is a return of serve. You have a fast serve coming, especially for those that have a bit more western grip, semi-western grip. Sometimes you struggle hitting the ball clean. Just resort to a forehand slice. Place the ball back deep. You just hit it nice and clean. You're going to neutralize your opponent and go back into the rally. Yeah, was the ball in, Kaya? Yes, Kaya confirms my return was ill, so was perfect neutralizing return. She had to back off, get back in the rally, and I was back into neutral. I could have even pressured the point a little bit, but that's a perfect situation to use your forehand slice in. And here's one more situation you can use forehand slice for, and that's a drop shot. You use your forehand drop shot, so you surprise your opponent. So I'm rallying here with Kaya cross court. That will be like a typical situation. This one is too deep. I cannot go for a drop shot, but for this one I can go, and the ball is in. So that's another very devastating stroke to have in your arsenal, and the foundation of that stroke is of course your forehand slice. You just cut a bit more under the ball and you get a drop shot. So what are the most important technical checkpoints for the forehand slice? The first one is the grip. So we want to have a continental grip, because with a continental grip we can apply very good slice. You can cheat a little bit to the Eastern forehand grip. That's also possible. I can try and hit one slice like that. It would also work, but eventually it would be good that you master the continental grip for all types of slice shots. The next one is the swing path. So if your swing path is too much across like this, you're gonna see from the back camera what happens with the ball, and that is usually also the problem. The problem on the volley, so players are swinging too much across and they don't have enough of a straight line. You want a bit more of a straight line towards the ball so that you hit more through it. And the other mistake that you can do with the swing path is that you swing too much under. You think it's really a slice shot and then you get this floating ball. So the swing path, I'm going to show you in slow motion in a minute, but the swing path is probably steeper than you think. It's much more down on the ball that you think, so again I will show you in slow motion. So now that you know that the swing path, you try to keep it a bit more linear, then you realize that the best stance to play this is a neutral stance or stepping in. So if I can, I want to step in the ball and put some weight transfer in the shot to control it. All right, 2 misses, let's go on the third one. Want to control it, because if I stay open stance, if I try to play this open stance, very likely I'm going to swing across like this. Now this one I was lucky, one more. I was lucky, but very likely you're going to swing too much like this and you're gonna get the ball like this floating around. So if you can like really try to position more sideways when you're on the court, yeah, you're on the court and you really try to position more sideways and give the ball a bit more of a linear swing path. Again, it's not completely linear, but don't swing so much across. Hit more through the ball and you get a good penetrating slice. So the next thing to keep in mind is the contact point. So if I'm going into a neutral stance and I'm hitting a forehand slice, then I'm trying to hit the ball somewhere here, maybe at around 45-degree angle or even a bit less, so I'm not hitting parallel to me, but not really far in front, because then that gives me a chance to push the ball a little bit further and have a better contact. Whereas if I'm hitting a forehand, then my contact point ideally would be more in front. So whatever stance I'm playing, this one I saved a bit, so if I'm playing even open, you can see where is my contact point for the forehand, so it's more there for a nice ball. But if I'm switching to slice, I have to let the ball come a little bit closer. I focus on the ball here at a 45-degree angle. I orient this way and then I have a more of a push through the ball, which is what I want on a forehand slice. 2 more things to keep in mind. The first one is the wrist position. So one of the most common mistakes when players are hitting a forehand slice is that their wrist is too stiff. So I'm going to try and demonstrate a forehand like that. So I kind of have a very stiff wrist. So you don't allow this. You can see from the side view that I lay back my wrist, because that gives me a little bit of a punch. So if you watch from the side, that gives me a bit of a punch, and then through this I can push through. So I'm not just chopping on the ball, but I give the ball a bit of a punch and then I push through. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And the other one is the finish. So like I mentioned before, players tend to swing too much across and there's finishing here. So even if they go into a neutral stance, they will tend to rotate too much and finish here. So the right finish looks more like this here. So somewhere here, you try to keep the strings more or less pointed to the target direction where you're hitting. Obviously that's not completely possible, but that can be your guideline, so that you're kind of staying more with the ball and this is the right finish. So you have to be quite firm, especially in the learning phase when you're trying to stabilize new technique. You want to be a bit more firm here before you master it. So keep those things in mind, as then that will help you control the ball much better and hit a much crisper, cleaner shot. So what's a good way to practice to develop good feel and control for the forehand slice? I suggest you start on mini tennis. Kai and I are going to play some mini tennis, but we're both going to play forehand slice in a very controlled manner. So just that we see that we control the ball well, that we're not chopping across, that we're not floating too much under. So that would be progression number 1. And in progression number 2, Kaya is going to start hitting top spins, gentle top spin shots, controlled top spins, and I'm going to stick to my forehand slice so that I learn how to control a topspin ball, which will happen many more times in real exchange. So you can do this drill cross court and even down the line, but that would be, in my opinion, the first starting point of you trying to implement the technical checkpoints that I mentioned into a real game situation. Here's one drill that I like to use a lot when I'm teaching a forehand or even a backhand slice, because it corrects the most common mistakes on the slice, which is chopping too much across and floating the ball under when players attempt to slice. And when you give them a little bit of the volley feel, assuming they can hit pretty crisp, clean volley, then they can transfer that feel into the slice. And so the drill goes like this: Kaya feeds me one ball to the volley and then one shorter ball, and I slice it. So I try to maintain that similar feeling of hitting more through the ball. I just lengthen a bit because volley is a bit shorter and this one is just a bit longer. So basically I'm just kind of extending my volley slightly with a backswing and slightly with a follow through, and that is a very effective drill in teaching the forehand slice or a backhand slice, but also to correct very common mistakes. And finally, the last control drill, you're going to play from the baseline. You're going to play a little bit just cross court, have your partner hit topspin or their normal strokes, and just try to control your slice deep over the service line in that last quarter. So we're going to do for a minute with Kaya cross court and then for a minute down the line. So I'm not looking for a lot of speed, I'm just looking for good control, clean contact of the ball, hitting that last half over the service line, positioning, not swinging too much across, so you have time now to think about your checkpoints, not to swing too much under, and control the ball, because you have to get confident in, let's say, these easy conditions before you apply this in the match. So some practice is necessary to develop the right skill for controlling the forehand slice. Let's go a little bit down the line. So here we go down the line. Same, I try to control the ball. I try to control my follow through. If that's something you have to correct. Most of players, they have to very calmly hitting the ball, watching the ball really well, letting the ball come slightly deeper than on my normal forehand, controlling the path and the ball, and gaining the skill and confidence to play the forehand slice. So in summary, forehand slice is a super versatile stroke. The sooner you master it, the better. For one, you're going to disrupt your opponent's game. For two, you'll be able to neutralize very difficult balls. And for two, you'll be able to handle some difficult balls like very low, fast balls, skidding off hard court, for example. You're going to stay longer in the rally. Hopefully that helps you play better. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.